It's been, what, 2 weeks, 3 weeks? I don't remember. And I thought maybe, just maybe, we'll have a normal start. No. And I was right. We're starting just like we always do. Just like normal.
That's true.
Yep, per usual.
Right. Hey, internets! It's Jake from Mini Terrain Domain, and this is the Dawnbringers, Season 5, Episode 36, Icewind Scales, and this is the Season 5 finale. Woo! Do you realize, and this is specifically for V and Jeremy, who have been with us, and M, I don't know why I said that. Because Fig hasn't been here, but M, you've been here since the beginning as well. This season is exactly 3 times as long as our first season of Dawnbringers. Back when we thought it was going to be a mini campaign, remember that? September was 3 years ago that we started Dawnbringers, and I was just talking the other night and realized I did the math on all the episodes. Tonight is our 114th episode. Not counting side quests, not counting anything else. We've played 114 episodes of Dawnbringers in the last just over 3 years.
Wow.
Looks like I owe you all 3 domain dice. So this is a good place to talk about domain dice, because let's see, that's going to be... Well, that's 2, so that'll put you up to 161. Smokebeard just resubbed, so that's 162. I feel like these are just going to keep coming in. It's almost like the audience likes you guys.
Oh, shucks.
Right? They like us. They really, really like us. Wait till next season when I finally introduce DM domain tomes. We just introduced them on our Monday night stream. We're play testing it there. But anyway, domain dice, or as we've occasionally called them in this campaign, domain ice. As I sip from I prefer my puns intended mug. Those are a way that you, the viewer, can have an influence on this game simply by tipping $5, subbing, gifting subs, resubs, raids, all that good stuff. 500 bits, $5 tips, all that turns into domain dice for the players. They can use in a variety of ways, from rerolls to making me reroll, all the way up to a patron's blessing. 5 domain dice will turn any hit into a super crit, which is double max damage. It's been used a few times, and I suspect we may see it used a few times more. Moving on. Down in the lower left-hand corner of the screen, we've got our sponsors. Their information will pop up during the stream and will show up across the bottom of the screen. But they are Talon and Claw and Run Right Play. Of course, with Talon and Claw, you can use code MTDClaw and get 20% off, 10%. I don't know why I said 20 all of a sudden. 10% off of your order. So please check them out. I will actually be using some very awesome dice that I keep in my dice vaults close at hand while we're playing tonight. Let's see. The last thing that I want to talk... Well, actually, one thing before we talk about that. Following tonight's finale episode, we are going to... next week, the Dawnbringers... most of the Dawnbringers that are able to make it with us will be joining us for a Q&A retrospective. So if you have questions for the Dawnbringers or myself... come next week at the same time, right here for that Q&A session. And then we're coming up on the Thanksgiving holidays. We're coming up on the Christmas holidays. For the month of December, Mini Terrain Domain is going to be, and the Dawnbringers in particular, will be on holiday break, winter break. So you can use that time to catch up on all those seasons you've missed. All the VODs are available on youtube.com/Mini Terrain Domain. And then we will have some special programming on Monday nights for our Scribes and Scrolls. So you'll want to tune in and check that out. But rest assured, I'm using that time to rest up and plan for Season 6, The Wild Beyond the Witchlight. All right. The last thing I want to talk about, we talk about all the time because it's super important, and it is that you matter. You make a difference, whether or not you believe you make a difference. We just want you to know that. You can be struggling. It's okay to struggle, but you don't have to do so alone. So you can come to our chat anytime and type in !help, and the URL findahelpline.com will show up, and you can use that, bookmark it. That is a wonderful resource. Anywhere you are in the world, type in your location and find the help services you need. It is a free resource. Please use it. With that, I think it's time to play some Dungeons and Dragons. Yay! The Dawnbringers. You have journeyed unwittingly to Icewind Dale in an attempt to escape the collapsing heart of the Nightfang Spire after destroying the vampire Gulthias, only to find yourself stranded on half of the ship at the top of a snow-covered mountain in the middle of a blizzard at night, where you found yourself here in Icewind Dale under the spell for over 2 years of Auriel the Frostmaiden. You also realized that the other half of your ship had been taken, along with most of, if not all of the crew, by a powerful white dragon. While in Icewind Dale, you happened to encounter that dragon, who was unable to escape the incredible airdropping power of one angry dwarf with a cape of the Mont Blanc. And you destroyed Arviatris. Later, you would learn that the bones of Arviatris had disappeared, leaving behind them crater and no sign of the skeleton, though some claim to have seen it flying away into the night. You also, while here, you made friends and allies in the town of Icewind Dale. You discovered and tracked down an old ally turned enemy, the human druid Vi from Oakhurst, who had become Vi the corrupted by a Chardalon, a ancient crystal and ice and metal fusion infused with evil, who attempted to create a construct dragon, resurrecting her brother Belak as Belak the Malevolent to wreak havoc on 10 towns. It succeeded in only wreaking partial havoc on Dugan's Hole before you completely destroyed it with yet another airdrop dwarf. Not long after that, you went back to the castle, which became airborne. You fought Vi the Corrupted, joined forces with her briefly to fight Auriel, once again airdropping a dwarf and a Goliath onto the massive white rock, the giant bird that Arviatris used to cast her spell every night. And then later, following to Auriel's Fortress of Solitude on the Sea of Moving Ice, where Vi the Corrupted and Auriel had joined forces to become Viriel, which stood no chance against the Dawnbringers. You then began to make your way across Icewind Dale, learning of this fate of the bones of Arviatris. Learning that now, with the Codicil of White from the Frostmaiden's vault in your hands, that the key to possibly gaining access to the lair of the White Dragon is in your possession. You began to, after a brief respite at your now home village of Lonelywood, you said some goodbyes and you headed east across the tundra, having briefly encountered some Remorazes, in the midst of a herd of reindeer, but you were able to deal with that threat. You took one last respite with less than a day's travel to go in Rollo's House of Affirmation, the magical mansion that she forms, where every night when you go in, you are greeted by warm, affirming kobold hugs from the kobold staff within. We now turn our sights on the Dawnbringers, as they have completed their final day's travel, and they stand before what could be their final challenge. The cold winds of the north are blowing harshly across the flat ice plains around you. The biting air and the stinging snow and ice whip and whirl around you, tugging at your clothing and pulling at your hair. Like a monument to Mother Nature herself, the towering edifice of the rugged glacier rises upward before you at seemingly impossibly high. Tens of thousands of years of frozen terraforming power forms what appears to be an impassable wall. Like curtains of translucent glass, what was once a powerful waterfall cascading from hundreds of feet high blocks any further advancement. To the left and right of this frozen wall of water are two obelisks of ice, each with a glowing sigil of the Frostmaiden, a six-pointed snowflake embedded within. Here stands Drown, the Goliath without a tribe, without a home, without a true name. Even now, Drown can feel the unfathomable depths of an ancient being whose very existence, though mysterious in nature, is intrinsically tied to the deepest waters of Toril. The glacier is ancient, but nowhere near as old as Drown's patron of the deep. Here stands Thorgarn's spirit caller, a dwarf of blazing dell and heir to the strongholds of Kundrakar. Thorgarn, who has seen enough death around him to last a dozen lifetimes. Though a fire burns deep in Thorgarn, it is the forge fire that fuels him, giving him the power to wield his hammer in the name of Moradin. And in the shadow, where the flames do not reach, there watches Thorgarn's dark passenger. Here stands Figure 2 Prometheus, the clockwork wizard who created himself, his father, and his sister. Just as Copernicus did so many years ago, Fig has begun to surround himself with likenesses of himself. See the clockwork messenger Hermes, and the simulacrum, Fig. Already, like Copernicus, Figure 2 Prometheus is becoming a master of the arcane. Here stands Rollo, the tiniest of the dragonkin, the much maligned and mistreated by her own kind, an Erd. With wings and wands and a dangerous proclivity for pyrotechnics, the littlest of kobolds may appear diminutive in stature, but she possesses a heart of immense size and compassion. Here stands Talmud Gadon, quick of wit and quicker to anger, but with a purpose. Once a simple stonemason, this dwarf has become a conduit for his ancestors, and wields them each, in turn, with a furious vengeance against his enemies. Here stands Cantriel Cavatina, Eladrin of the Feywild, wanderer of the material realm, a planeswalker in her own right. Mother, father, brother, sister, all lost to the machinations of dragons ancient and powerful. Her own fate, and that of her friends around her, manipulated by dragons and gods like marionettes. When she draws her bow, whether for music or for wishing swift death to her enemies, take note. Here stands the Dawnbringers, heroes of the Dale and beyond. Dawnbringers, what would you like to do?
Rollo would like to call team meeting.
What's wrong, Rollo?
Well, we are going into dangerous situation. Rollo think we should have group hug.
And Rolla will hold her arms out and close her eyes and just reach.
Oh, well, I mean, you can't deny that. Cantriel, like, scoops her up and hugs her.
I really hope we all do good. Rollo is scared.
Why are you scared?
Because we go against a dead dragon. Dragons are scary, but when they're dead, but they still do things, that's scarier.
Well, we've killed it once. How much harder could it be?
You know, now that we're standing here and I'm looking at this, it dawns on me, ice is just frozen water. Yeah, that's right. He kind of like looks around at the rest of the group.
Yeah.
Yes, you will be surrounded by water.
That's what just dawned on me. There's not like a chance that it might become water again, is there?
Not likely.
Unless Rollo throws a lot of fire.
He kind of
That is
looks
kind of Rollo's
at Rollo.
thing.
Talmud, as you say this, you hear from where these curtains of ice, like this one-time waterfall, are. You're sort of in this concave section of the edifice of the glacier, and you hear this bloop, bloop, kind of echoing. As you look closer, you can see there is a thin sheen of water trickling down this massive waterfall.
Yeah, Talmud is not certain about this at all anymore.
Talmud, are you scared too?
I am scared, Rollo, but it's not the dragons. That part doesn't scare me so much.
What scare you?
Yeah. He just kind of like gestures. That looks like liquid water there. That's melting already. I'm going underneath that. Probably deep underneath that.
Yes. But there probably is another way out.
That's reassuring, I suppose.
Well, when you're ready, Rollo has codicil of white. Rollo
I'm
will
ready.
open the way. Is everyone ready?
Yes.
Time to face our fears.
Okay.
And Rollo pulls out the manuscript.
We bow to she who wears the crown. Let the world shiver with dread. Clad in winter's whitest gown, her snow enshrouds the dead. Her fury sheds but frozen tears as grey clouds issue forth. Her wind across the wasteland shears, bringing blizzards from the north. Ice-kissed flowers caught mid-bloom, beauty kept in all its grace. Summer's gone into its silent tomb, stilling her cold embrace. All the world in winter white, sheathed in sleet and ice, set upon never-ending night, she conjures paradise. Behold her everlasting rhyme. See how it covers all. Weep not for those she traps in time behind her glacial wall. Sovereign of summer's lost, general of winter's war, long live the queen of cold and frost. May she reign forevermore.
And as Rollo's voice completes the rhyme of the Frostmaiden, that last line, evermore, seems to carry and echo around this concave area. And much to your dismay, Thorgarn, you watch as water begins to cascade heavily in thick rivulets, and you can now hear the running water. You hear almost explosive blasts of ice in front of you as the surface begins to shatter and break apart, and large chunks of the frozen waterfall begin to cascade down around, breaking even bigger holes in the ice. And then you see where a large chunk in the middle stays, a couple pieces break on the sides, and this large section of ice creates a rift in the curtain of water and ice. And there are sections of ice not shattered, with small enough gaps to cross. And beyond the waterfall, you can see, glowing with an eerie blue, the interior of the Reghead Glacier open before you.
Talmud, you okay?
Well, we'll find out, I suppose.
Would you like
Okay,
Rollo to hold your hand?
Hey. Yes. That would
Okay.
be wonderful. Thank you. He reaches down and takes Rollo's hand.
Don't worry, I'm here with you.
It's oddly appreciated. Thank you.
We ready?
All right. Let's go.
Yeah.
You all begin walking forward, and you find your way easy enough. Talmud perhaps gripping Rollo's hand a little tighter as you step on a couple of these sections of ice. And as you step on, you can feel the slight give and this big piece of ice kind of going. And then you move to another one. And after about traversing about 3 or 4 of these, you find yourself once again on solid ground, moving through a tall and wide cavern of ice. Again, or rather, you begin to move through this cavern. It seems to almost glow with its own light, as if it's capturing the sunlight from far above the clouds, filtering down through the ice. Everything has this ghostly blue, reminiscent of the Frostmaiden, reminiscent even perhaps of Fig's arcane nature. I would like everyone to make me a perception check as you are walking along.
Kevin. It's going to be an 11 for
13.
me.
28.
13.
Stand back, everybody. I got a 24.
Wow. Cantriel, you of course are the first to notice this, and maybe immediately thinking of Talmud. Unfortunately, as you turn to Talmud, the look on his face tells you he's noticed this as well. As you are traversing through these caverns of ice, you can see not more than 12 inches below the ice, water is moving and bubbling. The river under that this waterfall cascades into, there is moving water under this cavern.
Talmud, I need you to hold something for me.
I I don't know if that's a great idea, Cantriel.
No,
There's
it's a good idea. Here,
there's a
take
lot
this.
of
Take this.
Okay,
You have
okay.
experience with it. She's gonna give him her bottle of potion of sea life for giant shark.
No.
Oh, I had one just like this. Well, thank you, Cantriel. I'll maybe I'll find a reason to use that. Maybe not. Maybe not.
Maybe not, but you know. Oh, in case of emergency.
He kind of reaches up and kind of nervously, like, touches one of the rings that he wears on his finger, which is a ring of water walking. So he's very much making sure that that's tight down on the hand there.
You're all cast with this eerie blue glow that seems to almost ripple a little bit with the movement of the water beneath the ice. As you continue moving through this cavern that appears to be something almost like a natural rift in the glacier rather than any kind of regular passage. Also, with this perception check, in addition, anybody that got a higher than a 12 on their perception check, you begin to notice that the further along you go, you are seeing shadows within the ice. And these shadows have humanoid forms, as you notice that there appear to be people, some human, some Goliath, even giants embedded deep within the ice. Their clothing would suggest that some of them may have been there for a very long time. You're walking for no more than 10 minutes when the cavern turns slightly and opens up into an immense cavern. This place is easily 150 feet in diameter. The ceiling rises to a height at its lowest places. The ceiling is about 50 feet high. In the center, it seems to rise more than 100 feet. And you can see light and even a bit of snow filtering down from above. Not regularly, but you can also hear the howling of wind as there is some sort of caverns or caves up above this massive cavern that lead into this giant chamber. You can see that on the far side as you enter, there are alcoves, and there appear to be a couple places where passageways lead off deeper into the glacier. But you see one small alcove has a thin sheen of ice, thick enough to be a barrier, but thin enough that you can see through it. It is in this chamber that you can see a yellowish glow, dim and pulsating. And you can just make out the shape of a diminutive humanoid within, as their shadow is being cast and magnified across this ice on the other side of the chamber. You can also see on the other side of the chamber in another alcove, though the ice does on this one appear to be melting, you see piles and piles of gold and silver. You see objects of art. You see crates and chests. You see the glinting of glass bottles. You see a shield and other things. This appears to be the hoard the treasure hoard of a dragon, the dragon. The dragon to whom it belongs, though, is of no question, because clearly visible in this alcove, as if jammed in there and partially frozen in place, though again, the ice is melting. It is the stern, the aft section of the Evangeline, and you can see the name emblazoned across the aft of the ship, Evangeline. And from its hold spills even more treasure, the treasure you had not taken with you from what you had found within the hold of the Evangeline so long ago. What would you like to do?
We don't
Is
see
the ship
dragon?
broken?
Yeah, it's only the
Okay.
back half of the ship.
Got it.
I don't know if the Dawnbringers ever told you what happened with their ship.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, it is the back half of an entire sailing ship.
Okay. Do we
What-
see the dragon anywhere?
You do not.
Okay. Rolo, be very quiet. Because Rolo do not want to alert the person over there. Does anyone know who that is?
I think
Just
that
a
is who we are
moment.
looking for.
Jake, Cantriel's going to use her primeval awareness.
Okay.
So that's aberrations, celestials, dragons, elementals, fae, fiends, or undead are present within 1 mile of you.
You reach out with your senses and almost immediately get the tiniest of pings as the tiny kobold next to you sort of triggers immediately with just a hint of dragon. You reach out further and further, pushing out to the full mile, I believe it is, that you can sense out to. And you do not sense dragons anywhere.
Or
Or
undead,
undead.
fae,
But-
fiend, aberrations.
But you sense a strong fey presence on the other side of the room. And there is a strong, powerful sense of undead seeming to come from everywhere in this room. And it's through this power, I almost picture this as you sort of reach out with your senses and you begin to hit on these different sources. The camera seems to revolve around you and move to a top-down view as we see Cantriel standing there and the other Dawnbringers just a little bit behind her in this cavern. And there are bones everywhere in the ice. Again, humanoid bones, giant bones, bones that you can't define what they're for. Big bones, little bones. There's bones everywhere in this chamber.
Rolo looks at the ceiling. Is it just ice?
Well, the ceiling is ice, but of course it's not smooth ice. It's jagged and covered in giant ice icicles, stalactites of pure ice of all shapes and sizes.
Got it. Okay.
Well, forewarning. There be not dragons, but there is definitely undead. And a touch of fae, and she'll nod her head to that far wall.
That's the
Even
same
after death.
direction.
For.
Remember, a line Rolo didn't say, even after death. Whatever these things are, they may come up and say hello. And she motions to these bones in the ice and the bodies underneath.
Me and Fate can take care of that.
Big like straightens and like kind of looks at Rolo just and back and then at Rolo and then back.
What?
Puts up the like surprised eyebrows that magnetize
Yeah.
on.
I love it.
I am unsure I have the ability that you are confident that we both have.
Oh, you don't blow things up?
I think she is saying that the two of you will destroy them with magical might.
See Fig
possess
kind
that
of
ability.
relax slightly and nod. Ah, yes. Blow up. I am familiar with that.
Yeah, we do that.
Is
Fig
that what
nods.
we are looking for? And he sort of points to the alcove with the yellow light.
Could it be that the Nut Dragon is in the humanoid form?
That is possible.
Should we go say hi?
I think we should. And Drown will start heading that way.
Yep. Talmud will follow.
Yep, Fig will go that way too.
Rolo will take to the air and kind of skirt along the wall to try to kind of stay out of view.
Jake, is there running water under us here, or is it cave and bones in this area?
Looking down, you see the everywhere you step, there's bones under the ice. But looking closer, almost like a rack focus, you shift your focus and you can see a foot in some places, 18 inches, several feet in places. The ice is too thick to see it. But there are places where water is underneath the ice here. You all move across the cavern, picking your way across until you get to where this alcove is. It's about 20 feet across. The alcove itself has a ceiling that's about 20 feet high as well. And you can see that now this... Toward the edges are completely frosted around it, but the whole central section is almost flawlessly clear. There's a few pockets of little air bubbles to give away that this is an ice wall. And as you approach, you can see on the other side Madame Thala crouching with an Eladrin woman who seems to be glowing with an ethereal yellowish light. Cantriel, it's exactly as you saw Madame Thala in your dream.
Cantriel is going to... Just making sure I still have it. Yeah, she's going to use her sending to speak to Madame Thala. And she'll say, "It's the Dawnbringers. We're here. Don't make a sound. I can hear your thoughts. Where is everyone?"
She looks around. You see on the other side of the ice as she's suddenly looking around, and she looks up and actually sees you. You hear Madame Thala's voice inside your mind. Is it really you? I didn't know if you'd make it. There. The others. are either dead or she sent them to the Feywild to save their lives. As she indicates down at the Eladrin before her. Watch out for the dragon. Is the person responding is similarly constrained to the 25 words?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, that's all she says with that casting of sending.
Okay. Well, good news and bad news. That is Madam. That is the Evangeline. The crew is either in the Feywild or dead. And she said, watch out for the dragon. I didn't sense any dragons.
Break through the ice.
We could. Try that and see. She's saying watch out for the dragon. There's only one little bit of dragon that I can sort of sense around us, and she nods to Rollo. But there's a whole lot of undead.
Yes.
Didn't we already surmise that it's not really a dragon anymore?
That is the thought. Do we wish to remove Madame Thala and Evangeline to safety, or do we wish to hunt the dragon first while they are somewhat safely behind that wall? It will at least block the dragon's breath.
I'm definitely have a plan to save those who can't fight a dragon.
Of course. But should we do that now and risk bringing the dragon on us before we can get her to safety, or hunt the dragon and retrieve her once we have destroyed it?
Not to be too much of a downer, but if we don't live through the fight, shouldn't we make sure that they get out first?
The chances of them making their way back to 10 towns from here are slim to none. It doesn't matter where they are when we fall.
I cast mage armor.
Never mind.
Excuse me. We'll start talking to me.
You hear this sound as if the cavern itself is breathing. At last, we meet. Dawnbringers. I thought I was going to have to hunt the tundra for you. But you've served yourself up to me. Will you lay down your weapons and die honorably? You still don't see anything. You only hear this voice echoing around you.
For someone who's acting to be as ancient and all-knowing as you are, you seem pretty damn naive to think that we're going to lay down our weapons.
I had hoped you wouldn't. Honor binds me to ask.
Would honor also dictate that you show your face? Or would you rather hang in the shadows like a coward?
and the whole cavern begins to vibrate and shake. And then you hear another voice. Arviotris, we must be patient with our guests. They have not yet had a chance to meet us in our full glory. And from where the treasure hoard is, you see what appears to be a very ancient-looking man. Steps out. I would like everybody but Rolo
Is it the corpse that was
to
strapped to her back?
roll a well, actually, I won't make you roll that. You're making that connection. You absolutely recognize that what it's wearing is the same as the corpse that was strapped to Arviatris's back.
That she was talking to.
As this form walks out and says, Dawnbringers, it is an honor to meet you in person. I am Melthrond. And he raises his hand, and because you all walked across to this chamber, this is sort of happening between you and Melthron now, as you watch several bones, hundreds of bones, begin to rise from seemingly random places around the ice and the floor. And Melthron's making motions as rapidly. This is as quick as watching Optimus Prime transform. This is just like bones just as the skeletal form with remnants of leathery white skin still clinging to it the skeleton forms, and very telltale as the head sort of rises up, attaches, the jawbone snaps into place, but only one horn is on its head.
Missing some fangs.
Missing a few fangs, among other things. A couple talons, a rib bone here and there, as the skeletal form of Arviatris forms. Melthrond, it is clear they are spoiling for a fight.
Well, I mean, you extended us the courtesy, so maybe we should do the same. Do you wish to surrender easily without a fight? Let us do what we're here to do?
No.
If you don't wish to fight, we'll take our people and leave. And he's directing this to Meltheron, not to Arviatris.
I'm afraid everything in this cavern is now a part of our treasure hoard. Your rod, the gemstones encrusting that maul, and many more items you contain are from our hoard.
Nope.
So we thank you for returning it. Though it appears we will have to pry them from your dead fingers.
Well, Talmud, do you wish to return them all?
I plan on bringing it very, very close for them to inspect it.
Rolo casts Crown of Stars.
If you're going to cast a spell, that's going to trigger this. One moment. Yeah, as you're going to cast this, you see Melthrond immediately begin to gesture with his hands. Arviatris begins to reel back, and we're going to roll for initiative. As if we'd thought this was going to go any other way.
Right?
Yeah, you know, he was being courteous. Give him the shot.
I want my
All right.
dancing shoes. Are you kidding me?
Thorgarn.
Yes. 7.
7. Cantriel.
A 9.
9. Talmud.
Did you roll a
15.
1?
No, I rolled a 4.
Drown.
21.
Rolo.
13.
All right. And let me grab some of my lovely D20s here. That's going to be... And let's see. Okay. It has begun. Drown. You see Rolo begins to mutter and cast. You see Melthrond and Arviatris, the Dracolich, begin moving as well. And it's your turn.
Okay. How far away is Melthrond?
You had made your way across the cavern to where Madame Thala was, so you are 50 feet away from where Melthrond and the Horde is, because Melthrond just stepped outside of that alcove.
Got it. All right. So I think Drown is going to cast Far Step and blink out in a spray of sea mist and appear behind Melthrond. It's a bonus action. And I'm going to lay into him with this here axe.
All right.
First attack is going to be a 25 to hit.
That is going to hit. Yeah, that is going to hit.
Okay. God, I mean, are we just going to crack this thing off? It's just hard and
do
fast.
it.
All right, I'm gonna make it a super crit.
Yeah!
Okay.
And I'm gonna pump an Eldritch Smite into this.
Isn't that what we're here for?
Yep.
I believe so, yes.
All right. 6 times 8 is 48. Plus 12 is 60. Plus double max is 120. Plus 11 is 131.
Okay.
And he is knocked prone.
All right, 1 second. You said one what?
131.
All right. 1. Yeah, so you lay in surprise, catching him off guard as you appear behind him. And hitting him so hard that you knock him all the way down to the ground.
Illusion of that green energy. And second swing, I'll get advantage because he's prone.
Indeed.
Not a crit, unfortunately. So that will be a 30 to hit. And he will take 21.
21 on that one. So yeah, you lay into him something fierce.
That would be my turn.
He is going to... Oops. He almost for a moment, as you strike him and lay into him. He almost looks like a frail and feeble old man. Ah! And then he uses a legendary action to reach out and touch you. He's going to attempt to grab your leg. And that's going to be a 23 to hit.
Oh, yeah.
As he grabs your leg, you are going to take 10 points of poison damage, and I need you to make a con save.
Okay. Constitution save. No, I'll be right.
No.
Domain die on that one.
All right.
21.
So you are not poisoned, but you do take the 10 points of poison damage.
Okay.
Is that your turn?
Well, yeah, my turn was over. He uses legendary action.
Yeah, derp. So, from the middle of the room, the dragon, Arviatris the Dracolich, rises to her full height, and because you appeared where you did drown, you will not be in this area, as the first thing she does is she is going to exhale an icy blast at everyone. You need to make, all of you except for Drown needs to make a Constitution saving throw.
Am I in that?
You are.
Okay.
Yeah, because Rollo was stayed off to the side.
Yeah,
I that's
flew
far
around
enough,
close
but-
to the wall.
But you fly over or come over to the room or to the window with everybody?
No. No, I said I flew around the wall to stay out of sight of the person that was in there.
Okay, then you're fine.
Okay.
Sorry. What did everybody get for their con saves? Biggs? Good. Simulacrum is not. Talmud, Thorgarn. Thorgarn, you're immune to cold, aren't you?
I am.
So you can just stand there and take it as this blast hits you. Thorgarn? Nope. Talmud. Damn it.
Second time.
It's officially an episode.
And Cantriel.
To the quota. I used a domain die.
Okay.
Because I'm not going to go out like that. And I got a 26 total.
Okay. You unmuted, but I heard nothing. Now I hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
I got a 21.
That's a fail. So the Simulacrum and Cantriel will take 83 points of cold damage. Anybody that passed will take 41 points of cold damage. And if you have cold resistances, you can have that again to 20. And that is as Arviatris just sort of rises up, the wings, the skeletal wings spread wide, and she lets out this that seems to shake the cavern. Talmud, roll me a d4.
A 2.
Rolling a d6. Cantriel. As Arviatris roars and you feel everything shaking, you feel the ground shift beneath your feet and a fissure opens up. I need you to make a dexterity saving throw.
That is a 19.
That is enough as you just sort of quickly dodge out of the way, and this fissure opens up, and you see just a gout of icy water sort of, and then as the water settles in, you see it quickly start to freeze back over, knowing that you just missed falling into the ice below this layer. It is now Talmud's turn.
So he begins to move in the same direction that Drown kind of blipped towards the undead looking wizard. I don't think he's going to be able to cross the distance, but as he runs, his tattoos begin to glow blue up his body and across his face, the visage slowly changing from the face of Talmud into the face of Meepo, as his kind of draconic features almost mirroring Rollo's or maybe even the dragon's itself. He's running across this distance, screaming with Gerta raised over his head, "I'm bad luck!" You said he was 50 feet away?
The wizard is, yeah.
Okay. Then yeah, I guess I'm going to take the dash action.
Did you start your turn next to me?
I did.
You get 5 extra feet.
Is it just 5? I thought it was 10.
Is it 10?
Yeah, it's a 5-foot aura for a 10-foot speed boost, right?
Sitting at 35 right now, so it might not matter. But
oh,
I'm looking it up. Scrolling. Aura of alacrity. Yeah, increase walking speed by 10 feet.
damn it! So I get that close. So instead of taking the dash action, I'll take the dodge action.
Do you have like a javelin or a hand axe or something you can chuck?
I mean,
it's probably for the best that you took the dodge action, because as you're running towards Malthrond, you're going to run into reach of Arviatris's tail attack, provoking an opportunity attack.
There you go.
So you're running across, and I almost see this, like the camera starts moving across the ice at ground level. Then we see Talmud in screaming this, I'm bad luck, running into frame, and then here comes Arviatris's tail sweeping in to strike at you, and that's going to be with disadvantage. That's going to be a 22 to hit.
Yeah, that'll tag me.
So as you're running, you've just screamed this, and this tail comes swinging in and just slams hard against you, bony segments striking you for 24 points of bludgeoning damage, reduced to 12 because you're raging. All right, so you close to within 5 feet of Malthrond. Rollo
is going to kind of swoop to the side, and she makes a series of gestures and points up at the ceiling, and I'm going to cast Shatter on the ceiling directly above Arviatris in an attempt to bring the ceiling down on her to buy us a few minutes.
Okay. Yeah. That affects a 20-foot sphere of ceiling.
10-foot sphere, 10-foot radius, so yeah. And I want to bring it down like where her head is.
Okay.
Actually, no, I want to aim for center mass.
Okay. Somebody's been reading some Driss novels.
I've never actually read them.
Because let's see, that's 20 feet. Except, isn't a gargantuan? Don't they have a 20-foot footprint?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh.
Okay.
20-foot square.
Oh, well, then that's
No,
not going to do anything.
I mean, no. I mean, that's about its size.
What I was checking for was to see.
Oh,
if
footprint. I thought you meant like footprint.
I was checking to see if Drown, Malthrond, and Threat Zone would be more appropriate, I guess.
Yeah.
I was checking to see if Malthrond, Talmud, or Drown would be in that space, but I don't think they will because of where you targeted it. I would like you to roll me a d4.
That's a 3.
I would like you to roll 9d12.
See, d12. That's a lot of dice. Give me my total. Come on, D&D Beyond. Oh, no, I'm going to have to manually add this. 19, 20, 20. Oh, 58.
Okay. Yeah, you watch as all of a sudden the ceiling just shatters. Wait a minute. Yeah, the ceiling shatters. I was just checking the range on that. The ceiling shatters, falling onto Arviatris's back, and you see several bones breaking as you do. Did you say 58?
58, yes.
58 points of damage.
And then for my bonus action, I'm going to send one of the motes at, I apologize, I can't remember his name, the guy.
Malthrond?
Yes, Malthron. I'm going to send a mote from my Crown of Stars at him.
All right.
That's a 29 to hit.
Yeah, that's going to hit.
Can since I have to roll to hit with that, can I make it a super crit?
Yeah. You absolutely
can I make a super crit?
Keep in mind he's currently prone, so if that's a ranged attack, you have disadvantage.
Oh, yeah. Let me see if I roll a crit.
Well, no, it's disadvantage.
Is it a spell attack? Yeah, is it a spell attack or a ranged attack?
Or it's a ranged spell attack.
Okay, that's fair. Yeah.
Did not crit.
So what was the new number though?
Yeah, Katie, you had disadvantage.
Oh, I was rolling with disadvantage?
Yeah, because he's prone.
Yeah.
Ranged attacks are disadvantage against the prone
well,
target.
That sucks because I rolled a 1.
Yeah, that's bad. Domain die. Domain die.
Domain die! I'm using a domain die! That's a 23.
Sorry. Hold on. I
don't roll ones unless we want to.
We have different domain dice math on Monday's game, so I have to remember which ones to take away. Because it costs them 3 to re-roll on Monday.
Oh wow.
So
now that you have hit,
yeah, now it's a hit.
Super crit.
Okay, so that's double max, right?
Yep.
Double max damage. Yep.
So that's going to be, let's see,
To that patron's blessing.
48 times 2.
96.
96. That's 96 points of radiant damage.
Woo!
Okay. That's against Malthrond.
Well, it doesn't happen to be vulnerable to radiant, does he?
That would be so hot.
Not that you're seeing.
Darn.
He's an undead. You never know.
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, that's fair. That's fair. As a reaction, not a reaction, as a legendary action, he is going to, as he gets struck by this, you're the closest target to him, Drown, so you need to make a dexterity save as he seems to be making almost like a coughing, and then he just throws his hand at you, and a splash of acid comes at you.
Ew.
That was a dex save?
Yep.
He's gross.
All right. 17.
It's just going to make it because it's a cantrip.
Oh,
You will take no
hooray.
damage. Arviatris is going to take a legendary action, and Arviatris is going to make another tail attack at Talmud. And that is going to be as this tail just suddenly...
Still at disadvantage, right? Because he dodged?
Yes, good point. Thank you. So that is going to be a 24 to hit.
Yep. Still got
As
me.
the tail... Oh, I rolled low on damage this time. The tail swings back in the other direction, Talmud, and smacks you from behind for 13 points of bludgeoning, rounded down to 6. And that is going to take us to from the ground in front of you and sort of between you and Talmud, Melthrond pulls himself back up into standing. And he is going to as he stands up, he's going to look right at you, Drown. Well, I can see you're going to be problematic. And I need you to make a Constitution saving throw.
Okay, cool. It's fine. It's fine. Oh, thank God. 23.
Okay, so you will only take half of this damage, which is going to be 1, 2, 3. That's going to be 7, 8, 9, 10.
Can my
16,
ghost friends intercept?
17.
Should be able to.
25. 32. 62. Hold on. What kind of damage?
It's just damage, right?
Yeah, it's any creature within 30 feet of me that takes damage.
Okay.
I can use the reaction to reduce it.
It's 65 points of damage. That's as this wave of negative energy, necrotic energy, rushes towards you. You are already going to take 32 of that. How much damage is your spirits going to absorb?
So the spirits kind of move in between, and they're going to, some of them like dissipate and disappear as they soak up 12 points of that.
Okay, so you take 20 points of necrotic damage, Drown.
Okay. And then I guess I will use my reaction to Stone's Endurance that as well to reduce it further. And I will reduce 12 of it, so I'll take 8.
That's not bad. 65 down to 8.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Jake, I rolled a dirty 20 on my wisdom saving throw to keep my shit together, and a 16 to maintain concentration.
Okay. That is Melthron's turn. As the camera crash zooms across the room to where Cantriel has just dodged falling into the ice. Cantriel, it's your turn.
Dodged but didn't fall, correct?
Yeah, you just dodged out of the way.
Okay. All right, just making sure. So Cantriel is going to, seeing what's happening with Melthron, she's going to pull Sempre Cavatina and draw the bow back. And she's going to, murmur swift death again to those who have wronged me. And she's going to fire both shots towards him, and we'll see what happens. Okay, so that is going to be a 19 to hit.
That's gonna hit.
That's gonna hit. Okay, so then we're gonna have fun. I'm gonna super crit.
Okay.
I believe that's 64 for her with her full damage with her Sempre activated.
Okay.
So that's the first shot.
4 points. Get this all. Okay.
And then going to go in, second shot with a longbow. Same target. And that is going to be a 17 to hit.
That is also going to hit.
Okay. Do we want to do another super crit on this one?
Yes.
Okay, another super crit.
Yeah, if it gets all that extra damage, sure.
Yeah, because the 3d6 sticks around for both shots.
So that was how much again? 65?
64.
64.
Yeah.
Yeah, these arrows are... you have this full magical force behind them, and each one of them drown as Malthrond is looking right at you. You watch as an arrow pierces right through him and sort of flies over your shoulder. And then another arrow just and flies over the other shoulder. And you see these gaping holes in his flesh where the arrows pass through. Is that your turn, Cantriel?
No, bonus action. She is going to shout out to Talmud. All right, I started poking holes at it, make it a big old mess now. And that's Bardic Inspiration.
Malthrond, as this strikes him, these arrows go flying out through and missing you. You see this sort of necrotic energy flare up in Malthrond's eyes, and he just sort of clenches his fist, and like Neo flexing reality at the end of the Matrix, he just kind of goes. And I need Talmud and Drown to make Constitution saving throws.
Uh, 16.
All right, and Talmud?
I burned another domain die, and I got a 24.
All right, so you will take 10 points of necrotic damage. Drown, you will take...
I passed on a 17 with the other one. I'm going to burn a domain die.
Okay. So you'll both take 10 domain... Or not domain. 10 necrotic... You take domain dice damage.
No!
How can I make that work?
We have to decide before we know if we passed or failed, right?
Yes.
For the domain dice?
Yeah.
Not really.
Oh, okay. Well, then if 16 does the deal, I'll do that.
Yeah, no, you're fine. So you're going to both take 10 points of necrotic damage as he uses his Disrupt Life legendary action. And let me resolve those. Get your count up there.
So I do have to burn a domain die. So Drown kind of reels from the draining of his life, and he clenches his teeth so hard. Talmud, you can hear his teeth cracking a little bit, and he opens his mouth and lets out a bellow that shakes the ice, and his eyes kind of start to turn black, and he catches himself, shakes his head, and seems to snap out of whatever the hell that was.
So that was an extra domain die there.
Another domain die.
All right.
I'm sure it's fine.
So it was Cantriel that went. So Thorgarn.
All right, so I've basically seen where the dragon's tail can reach. So I'm gonna kind of move a little bit further, but move within range. Not quite gonna be able to get to Melthoron and melee, so I'll get to 20 feet away, and I will throw Forge Feint at him. He is standing, right?
Melthron is standing, yes.
So 2 attacks. I have a 27 to hit, and I have a crit.
Ooh.
Thorgarn,
Yes, sir.
what does it look like when you destroy Melthron?
Nice. So the first shot, hits him, kind of cracks into his like chest and ribs, but the second shot hits him square in the face and just shatters the skull.
As these strike him, Drown and Talmud, you see as he starts shattering, falling apart, and with this last one that hits, Forge Vein hits and sort of seems to stop from passing through as you watch his head starting to shatter and dissipate. And he just turns his head as his legs and his body begin to also dissipate, turning into ash almost, as he turns to the form of Arviatris and says, I will meet you again. And ash of Melthron spread across the ice. And I don't know how it didn't show up why it didn't show up in the initiative order here. But I know that you are up next, Fig. You are completely off the initiative chart for some reason, but I know you are last in the order. So it is your turn.
So a bunch of stuff has happened, but Fig, when the Arbiatress let out her breath, and Fig is fine, but he looks and he sees that his simulacrum just like explodes into snow and ice, which was what he made it from. And he just slowly looks back to the dragon. That was not very nice. And reaches a hand out and is going to cast chain lightning on Arbiatris, as this this crackling of energy can feel within the cavern, and it arcs right at Arbiatris, and he has to make a Dex saving throw.
You can already see that Arviatris looking down with some of this ice that Rollo brought down. It's still sort of cascading through the bones, and has noticed Melthron's demise. And you can already see that Arviatris seems to be thrumming with anger, and there seems to be a bit of arcane energy arcing across the bones. And Arviatris is going to use legendary resistance to pass that save.
Use them up.
Jake, I have a question.
That's still half, yeah?
Yeah, it's still half damage, yeah. Yes.
Can I make an Arcana roll to know what kind of undead Embro was? I can't remember his name to save the life of
I'm
me.
like, who the hell is Embro? I don't remember there being an Embro.
Embro.
Right. No, but I'm totally going to have a character named Embro at some point now.
I was just typing. I'm gonna. My next character is gonna be a complete Chad named Embro, Embro. Just massive himbo, like gnome berserker or something.
M's
here
over
for
there
it.
going, "It me."
I hate all of you.
I feel attacked.
Himbo the Himbro. I like it.
You can absolutely make an Arcana or a History check there. So what'd you get for that damage? Half?
Half is 18.
Half is 18. Okay.
I got a 19 on that roll.
Okay. You've seen so little of him, and he wasn't around long enough for you to really get a sense of what he might be
Okay.
or might have been. But all of you notice that as this lightning spell hits Arviatris and is cascading, Arviatris seems to almost absorb some of the electrical energy, and you see as her size doesn't change, but you see this pulse of arcane energy, and then you see the spectral form of her ancient dragon shape, ghostly image sort of overlaid over the bones. We are at the top of the round, and that's where we're going to take a break.
Well, that was cool as shit.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was one round of combat.
Yeah, 1 round, 6 seconds.
Yep. So yeah, we're gonna go ahead and take a break. Thank you everybody who has subbed, donated, whatever, into the domain die pool. They still have 140 domain dice, but hey, more domain dice never hurts. Well, it hurts me. It hurts my stuff. But yeah, if you want to donate during the break, you want to sub, gift subs, you can use the Ko-Fi link, and I need to check that, make sure I don't owe you any domain dice. Memberships are open, all that good stuff. We're going to take a 10-minute break, and we will be back for the last half of this season finale, Icewind Scales. We'll see you on the other side of the break. And we're back. It is the top of the order. Melthrond is dead, a pile of ash on the ground. And Arviatris has apparently just turned into another form with a ghostly spectral evolve. That's the word I was looking at. I don't Pokemon. I was looking for the Pokemon term. As Arviatris seems to have now a spectral dragon form around her dragon bones. It is Drown's turn.
Right. Oh God. How far away is she from me?
About 20 feet. Yeah. 25
Right,
feet. Because you were out of range
bonus
of the
action.
tail.
Yeah, as a bonus act. Oh God. You know what? I don't. Maybe I. She hurt. She hurts. Is there any cover I can get to anywhere? Pile of treasure.
The
hull
only
of the
cover
ship,
you could
maybe?
get would be to go. Since you appeared behind Melthron, you are close. You are really close to the treasure alcove.
Right.
So you could basically duck into the alcove, and there's literally a shield in there plus parts of the ship.
All right. Yeah, as my action, I'm going to use let's see. I guess I'm just going to, for now I'm going to use Far Step to teleport back kind of into that alcove, get some cover from the dragon, and I'll put 3 Eldritch Blasts into her.
Okay.
It's a low roll. I got a 25.
To hit?
Yeah. That should hit.
I mean,
yes.
that's a hit. Not.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's a hit. I thought you
Yeah.
said 2 hit. Right. All right. So the 4 will miss, but those 2 will hit. All right. So I'll put 2 Eldritch Blasts into her. 5, 10, 20, 21 damage total. force. And if I pull her 10 feet closer to me, will that pull her out of tail range of Talmud? I don't know how close they are.
Yeah, it would. Yeah, if you pull her 10 feet closer to you, can you pull something that big?
Oh, that's a really good question. This might actually have a size limit on it.
Because she is definitely gargantuan.
I know that Repelling Blast does not have a limit. Grasp of Hadar might. Once on each of your turns, when you hit a creature with your Eldritch Blast, you can move that creature in a straight line 10 feet closer to you. End of line. So no size.
Go for it.
Yeah, so one of the crackling green bolts will solidify into a tentacle that wraps around her spectrally. Yank her, drag her across the ice 10 feet away from Talmud. Get him out of legendary slapping range.
There is this ridiculous sound that is of rending ice as her claws are digging in, trying to resist this pull. And you just see like when a hockey player does a sudden stop and that ice just shoots up, magnified by like 100 as ice shards and mist are just couple things are going to happen. One, drown. Roll me a d4.
God, why? I don't have a d4 out. One moment. Number one.
All right. So I need Rollo, Fig, and Talmud to make dexterity saving throws. Nope. Correction. I'm rolling to hit. That's a 17 plus 7, 24 to hit Rollo, 15 to hit Fig, and that just rolled over weird. A 12 to hit Talmud, so I think you're okay. Does a 15 hit Fig?
So Fig, it would, but Fig is going to use his reaction to cast Shield as these this huge discs of rotating gears just comes up from the snow against this attack.
And Rollo, that was a 24 to hit you. As you're muted.
Okay, that's so on brand. Yeah, I can't shield that, so. Okay,
so what's happening is a layer action. 3 big chunks of icicles are falling from the ceiling. Rollo.
How close is Rollo to Talmud?
I'm
all the way across the room.
Way across the room, yeah.
Never mind.
Thank you, though. That is 26 points of piercing damage.
Got it. 26.
Yep. As another one falls and just misses Talmud, and Fig, hearing the cracking ice, you throw up these arcane shields, and as you do, it just all around you. So that was Arviatris's lair action. As Arviatris, or rather, that was the lair action. At the end of Drown's turn, she's going to use her legendary action before she takes her turn. What you see is this new form of Arviatris just towering up, her head rising up into the higher parts of the ceiling as she's looking down at all of you. And she hones in on Drown, Talmud, Cantriel. She actually hones in on you twice to match, and you actually hear her voice. For the true arrows you pierce Smelthrond with, and you watch as what looks like spectral magical spears of bone and ice appear in the air and shoot towards each of you.
You tell me how much cover I was able to manage.
So you ducked into the room. You are a Goliath trying to hide behind treasure. I'll give you half cover.
Okay, I'll take it.
What does that do to your? Oh, it doesn't
a mere
matter.
+2 AC.
It does not matter. These are basically magic missiles.
Oh well, never mind.
So
if
even though
you're total cover, it won't help.
But they're not quite as bad. I mean, they're going to hurt. But Cantriel, you take 12 points of force damage. Drown, you take 1 point as you see coins just go. And Talmud, you also only take 1 point from these arcane spears, and then she turns her full attention as she whips around where Malthrond is and just sees the ash on the ground. She's looking over at Cantriel, but right next to the dead Malthrond is Talmud. Talmud. She is going to attempt to bite you. That is a 36 to hit.
She's moving up to where he is.
Yep.
Am I still under the dodge action from the first round? I think so. So does she have disadvantage then?
Yeah, if you hadn't taken a turn.
Oh yeah,
yet,
you haven't taken a turn
had
yet.
a second turn yet.
Okay, so that becomes 35 instead of 36.
It's close, Jake. It's really damn
and then
close,
she is going to strike out at you with the claw for a 30 to hit. And the second claw is going to be only a 25 to hit.
It's
So you are going to take as she suddenly this massive head comes down towards you, Talmud, and she just snaps at you. You are going to take in total as the jaws bite down. Don't look at me like that.
Words are hard.
Where did he get bitten?
Yeah, right.
26 points of piercing halved to 13. And 19 points of force damage, which you cannot resist. That's just from the bite. And then you got hit by 2 claw attacks. That is a 25 slashing on the first, halved to 12. A 19 halved to 9 on the second one, and you are grappled as she picks you up in her massive hand. And that she is also going to begin beating her wings, and she starts to fly up into the high part of the ceiling, and she's going to fly 60 feet up with Talmud in her hand. And that's her turn. So it is now Talmud, it's your turn. You are grappled by Arviatris.
So as she's wailing into Meepo Talmud, he's screeching like the Chamberlain, just and this thing reaches down and grabs a hold of him, hoists him up, and as he kind of comes around, I'm going to be the bad dragon. You better watch out! He's going to raise Gerta up and bring it down twice.
Okay.
Recklessly. You gotta be kidding me. I'm gonna spin a domain die because I rolled 2 2s.
Your attacks will be at disadvantage.
Okay, so I attacked recklessly, so then it should just wash.
Yeah.
Roll
Okay.
the
Because
one
you
die.
are grappled and restrained. That's
Oh,
what I
and
was just
restrained.
checking.
I missed that
Sorry,
part.
I
Okay.
missed that too. That's why I was just double checking.
Yep, for sure. All right, so I spent the domain die. We rolled. That's much better. That's a 28.
That will hit.
Excellent. I'm gonna fuck her day up. Super crit.
I got the translation.
Yep. So as Meepo Talmud reaches back with Gerta, a little bit of the electricity from Fig's spell is kind of still dancing around, and it actually leaps into Talmud's tattoos and causes them to glow even brighter. And the brightness of the glow actually transfers through his hands and into Gerta Brelne and causes the gemstone stolen from this very fucking dragon to brilliantly shine as the electricity also climbs up to the head and comes down and strikes her right on the arm.
What's the total damage on that?
290.
What?
290.
What? Yeah.
And as long as she still qualifies as a dragon, I guess I should have clarified.
She doesn't.
Oh.
So
She is
you'll have
undead.
to shave. Okay, so it's 254 instead.
Oh, only 254.
Is that all?
Only 254. Yeah. The extra 3d6 of dragon damage will sadly not go into it, but
All right. Was that just your first hit?
One would say as a Dracolich, it's
Wow.
an undead dragon, but who are we to squabble?
I'm gonna let you make your second attack before I do a thing. Let's see what happens here.
I'm gonna spin another domain die because we've got them. It's the end of the season. Okay.
Yeah.
So it's a 22 to hit.
You hit.
Excellent. Okay, so I can't do the lightning again, but I am gonna super crit again
Okay.
because why not? So let's see. Without the lightning, without the dragon, that is just the weapon damage. So that's 94 points.
94 points of damage.
Bludgeoning.
Where I lost the stat block for a minute. So you slam into the hand once again. And lost my d20 for a moment. Let's see. That is going to be a then on the second one. Wow. You hit for 340 some points of damage, striking at its claw that was grappling you. And after that second hit, she rolled a 13 on a strength check to continue holding you and is going to let go of you from 60 feet up.
Reaction featherfall.
And you are going to slowly start gliding to the ground. she is going to... She's going to use a legendary action after your turn as you are slowly falling away and you see this hand sort of crushed from your massive attacks. The fingers are sort of mangled, and then your focus shifts as once again this giant maw is coming at you. She's going to make a bite action against you for 27 to hit. Which means you'll take 22 half to 11 piercing damage and 9 half to 4 force damage. As she bites at you, gets a chunk, and then you continue to glide away from her.
Pardon, sorry. Why is the force damage halved?
Yeah, that should.
Oh, sorry, no. The force damage is 9. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, so.
And
okay.
Drown, on your last turn, did you make your wisdom save?
Yeah, I did.
Okay.
Y'all were just kind of going at it, but I nat 20'd the wisdom save.
Okay.
And
I meant to ask you that, like way back when you took your turn, like two turns ago. But
yep, no, I've been keeping up on my saves. And the only time I've had to burn domain dice, I've told you. So,
Rolo,
Yes,
it's your turn.
it is Roller's turn. You know you've been waiting for it. You get it now. Fireball!
I need a dex save, please.
All right. From up on high, you watch as Arviatris gets sees this fireball coming and is going to use her wings to sort of push back a little bit and is going to burn another legendary resistance.
Okay.
I just see it sort of like flying past and striking the cavern, melting some of this ice, but the explosion will still do half damage.
Can I make a request? Where it hits and the ice starts to melt, it just like a little bucket of water basically falls directly on Talmud.
I will allow it gladly.
Yay!
Talmud casts water walking in the air, uses his ring of water walking in the air to just walk around this.
Now, let's be fair. Meepo is currently in control, and is Meepo afraid of water?
Meeple's not a big fan of water either. Water usually meant baths for him.
So now I'm clawing the shit out of this dragon. No.
So, what's your fireball damage?
It was 36, I believe. Let me double check. 34.
34. That was the total damage, so she'll still take some of that. And yeah. Anything else?
Oh, I'm sorry. 39. It was 39.
Okay. All right. Adjusted. Anything else, Rolo?
Oh, bonus action. I'm sending a mote after her. So let's see. That is going to be a 24 to hit.
That is going to hit.
And that is going to be 45 points of damage. Radiant damage.
How many? Sorry.
45.
Did you want to super crit that?
Can I super crit it?
Yeah.
You guys good with it? I'm going to super crit it. So that's going to be 96 points of damage.
What does it look like when this mote hits her?
Okay, so the crown spins for a moment, and as it spins, one of the motes basically slings around from the back and flies out and arcs towards her, and it impacts her in the chest, and this radiant light just shoots out and wraps around her and sort of fizzles as it covers and moves around her entire body, and then it just all sinks in with this sound.
And you see it strike and ripple and sort of accentuate this spectral, ghostly image of this dragon body over these bones. But she is still up. And she's going to take another swipe at Talmud as he's continuing to fly past, this time with her tail. 31 to hit. Talmud, you are going to take from the tail. Well, you're falling, so you can't be knocked prone. But you're going to take 21 points of bludgeoning damage from the tail. That was 1, 2. Yeah. Okay. And yeah, that's nope. Melthron is gone. Cantriel, you are up again. You're seeing Talmud up in the air, falling, though not nearly as diminutive, like Gandalf and the Balrog falling. And this thing just keeps she keeps it biting and striking at Talmud as he's falling.
Cantriel's going to look at Arviatres, and she just sort of slings her bow back over her shoulder, and she opens up her hands and looks her directly in the eye. You hurt and choose death. I heal and choose life. And she has these little flecks start emerging from her fingers, and they have this iridescent reddish look to them, and you realize that they're red dragon scales that are going to fan out and basically fall upon all of her companions, and they're all getting, because of mass healing, 17 HP back.
Thank you. I am squishy and full of nougat.
How is it you have the scales of a Shardalon?
He's my grandpappy.
You just get this growl as she shows teeth. Well, she's showing teeth constantly, but you see the spectral form sort of snarl at you. Is that your turn?
You're missing something.
Thorgarn, it is your turn.
Has Talmud made it to the ground yet?
What's the fall speed on
60 feet around?
Yeah.
Around?
Hang on.
Then he hasn't quite hit the ground yet because he's falling from 60 feet.
60 feet per round till the spell ends.
He's just, Talmud's just going.
He's like a leaf on the wind.
Oh.
Don't say that.
I am so glad you said that. I am so glad you said that. What are you going to do, Thorgarn?
All right, so... All right, well, I'll go towards where Talmud is eventually going to hit the ground, and I will just chuck Forge Feint a couple of times. I assume it's more than 20 feet away, right?
It's 60 feet in the air.
So that is a 28 with disadvantage.
20 what?
28?
Yeah.
And 24.
Yep. So far, you know that a 22 will hit.
It's going to be 25 points of bludgeoning.
25. Bludgeoning. All right. And that's your turn.
That is indeed my turn.
You keep throwing toys at me. And she's going to use another legendary action. The tail whips out. That's a 23 to hit Talmud. That is 21 points, which would be halved down to 10. Which, because you got the mass healing, I can't do a wash and have the tail pierce through you, and I know it's close. But yeah, that's Talmud gets battered one last time on the way down. And Fig, it is your turn.
Fig is going to take a note from Rolo and cast Fireball.
Okay.
Has to make a dex. He has to make a dex. Fig.
We blow it up!
It's a let's see. Let me find it here. Dex save. Are you freaking kidding me? 13. Rolled a 3 on the die.
That is a fail, and she's going to take 51 points of fire damage.
So Figs, what does your fireball look like? Because it's dramatically different than Rolo's.
Yeah, with this one, you see Fig outstretch his hand, and these matches kind of stick out of his arm, and they begin turning and turning and turning more and more, and eventually you just see this halo of fire around his arm, and as it kind of coalesces together, almost as if like a cyclone wind is guiding it to his palm, and then he takes that energy and it explodes from his hand towards the dragon.
And because Arviatris had her attention on Talmud and trying to take him out, she didn't see this happening as it just washes over her. You see it not only cascading over her spectral form, but actually penetrating that and washing over the bones of the Dracolich. And yeah, that's going to take us to the top of the round. Drown.
Right. How far up is the dragon?
Still 60 feet up.
60 feet off the ground, and then
Mm-hmm.
a fair bit over from me. All right. I don't think I'm going to do any jumping on the back of the dragon shenanigan right now. I am going to lay 3 Eldritch Blasts into it. 2 hits. All right, 2 hits. Man, my damage rolls on these EBs are not friendly. 16 points of force damage.
All right. They
And I will duck back into cover.
strike in and you disappear. Cantriel, roll me a d4.
I'm literally having a hard time finding one. Hold on. Okay, I got one.
It's the pointy one you don't want to step
I
on.
know. It's just for some reason all my D4s went into hiding, so that was a 4.
That was a 4.
Yeah.
Malthrond is gone, so that lair action cannot happen.
Sweet.
But it is Arviatris's turn.
Boo.
And she is going to pull her wings back. She's going to swoop down. On the way down, she's going to bite at Talmud for a 21 to hit. I don't want to put those away. That's going to be... Where'd the other one go? Okay. That's going to be 22 half to 11 piercing damage. Does that knock you out?
Yes. Well, okay, so technically I have something I can do about it.
So
I think it's just automatic. See?
Yeah, because there's an additional 10 force damage on top of that, but you're at 0, so...
Yeah, if I drop to 0 hit points while I'm raging and I don't die, I get to make a con save. If I succeed, I go to 1 hit point instead.
Okay.
So I got a 22 on my con. So I am technically still up at 1 hit point.
She has 2 more attacks.
Bring it.
She is going to swing her claw out at you again. 32 to hit.
Yep. All right, so another con save. It's gone up by 5, so now the DC is 15.
Okay.
It's a 21.
Okay, so all that damage hits you, and you're fighting for consciousness, and you see she's barreling down on you, and she's sort of following you down to the ground, and she's getting angrier and angry, and why won't you die? And she's going to take that last claw attack at you.
Why won't you?
28 points.
28 to hit.
28 to hit.
Yeah.
So,
so now I have to make a con save at a DC 20. I'm going to use a domain die. I rolled the same fucking thing.
Do it again.
Okay.
Yeah.
Pass.
Okay, but that's it. That's it, though. One more. That's it.
okay.
Okay.
Then whatever happens, happens. Okay. That's a 24.
Okay. So the way this bears out is you're just falling the 60 feet. And she's biting at you, and she's clawing at you, and she's clawing at you, and you're just not dying, and she hits you with the second one, and you're still holding on, and you land with her gripping you in her claw, slamming her fist into the ground, and just in your face, why won't you die? And that is going to take us to you, Talmud.
Okay, so we see her make that first bite that would normally have killed Talmud outright. And we see the form of Meepo like fall away, almost like falling out of Talmud's body. And then the crazy bloodthirsty cousin comes out, and the claw rips him out and away from Talmud's body. Then the protective ant comes in, and the third claw, that third attack, rips her away. Each time that one of these things falls away, we cut back and we see the journey here. Talmud is thumbing and fingering a small section of his beard that has been trimmed close to his face. And when this final claw slashes across, we cut to seeing that beard hair that has been braided in a very particular fashion, this tradition that dwarves do. And the braid that we see is fastened around the wrist of Yesha. And we cut back to see similar bands hanging from the belt of Talmud or around his wrist. These others that have come from the ancestors that he has known before. When his tattoos begin to glow this final time, it is his own visage that takes over his own face. And he says, because I'm fucking bad luck. And he's going to raise Gerta Brome and strike recklessly at this motherfucker.
It is with disadvantage, so it's a wash.
Okay, so wash them.
Because you're
wash
grappled and
jokes.
restrained.
Oh, is he restrained again? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. That's another domain die. Can't have bad rolls ruin that moment. Or maybe I can. Okay, so that's a dirty 20.
Did you use your bardic inspiration yet?
Holy shit, I haven't. Is it D10?
D10, darling.
Throwing it on there. Help me, Jesus. That's a 27 then.
Now it'll hit.
Good. Thank you.
Because that dirty 20 wasn't going to do it.
Oh, so now we know we're either at a 21 or a 22. Not really.
I'm gonna fucking super critter again.
Do it.
That's what they're there for.
Juice it. All right, so that's another 94 points. Nope. Yeah, that's without lightning, without dragon.
Right, one
damage.
second. Let me fix the domain dice. So, Talmud, how do you want to do this?
Yeah!
She had 91 hit points left.
Okay. So she's like just wailed on Talmud and just is slamming him into the ground, and he keeps getting back up, fucking Rocky Balboa style, just won't go down and stay down. And finally, as he comes back up and he looks her square in the hollow eye sockets of her skull, and he says, because I'm fucking bad luck. He brings Gerta up. Now that she's down close to him and he's on his own feet, he raises the maul high above his head and brings it down onto a place where some of the wounds have already been dealt into her earlier. Some of these stalagmites having fallen on her and things where a crack had already kind of started in her skull. The maul strikes straight down on top of one of those fissures, and the skull just splinters underneath the weight of the mighty dwarven artifact.
And you watch as all of these bones begin to shatter and splinter and fall apart and cascade, raining around you in bone shards and dust, spilling onto this field of ice that is, or was, Arviatris's lair. For a moment, the spectral form of Arviatris lingers. No longer gripping, you feel as the bones are gone, shattered. The pressure of this grip on you is loosened. But you feel cold chills pass through you as Arviatris's spectral hands pass through you. And the head still in your face sneers at you. And you hear almost this disembodied sort of echoey voice say, and now I have the measure of you. The head whips around across the chamber and finds you, Cantriel. The Chardalon will be most interested to hear of his descendant. And then you see the form rise up, and then it begins to sort of glow, and then down into the center of the cavern where you see a single gemstone go. And then there's a flare of flame goes. And there's a small melted hollow where that gemstone was. And the fight is over.
Whew. Just because I don't know for sure whether or not that was a lich that we fought, Rolo is going to cast Detect Magic and go over to the treasure hoard and look for anything that might be a phylactery.
I'm going to touch Talmud and heal him for 40 points.
As you're flying over Rolo and you, before you find anything resembling a phylactery, you find a Goliath taking cover behind some of the treasure
now. And heading over toward the wall of ice.
You actually notice that the wall of ice has melted rapidly into a pool. And standing on the other side of this is Madame Thala, the gnomish woman, and this Eladrin standing next to her, still softly glowing, but she's standing up, holding on to Madame Thala's hand. And you hear her voice as if she's standing next to you, Rolo. That won't be necessary.
Okay.
Your thinking is right. Malthrond is a lich.
Oh no.
And Arviatris. Well, the two were so intrinsically connected that when you slew the ancient white dragon Arviatris in her flesh form, you unwittingly completed the ritual they had started years ago that allowed her to become a Dracolich. Her and Malthron's phylactery is not on this plane. I suspect it is wherever the Chardalon is.
Oh, that's bad.
I'm afraid you may yet face Arviatris again. But for now, she is gone, and will be for a long time. Then she looks around the room at the rest of you. You are the Dawnbringers. Madame Thala has regaled me with tales, but I know your adventures. I was with you when we sailed across from Luskin to Saltmarsh and back again. I was with you at the Feywild. And while you were gone dealing with the next threat, I was taken by Arviatris back to the lair here. When the form of the Evangeline, the ship, was rent in two, my life force broke free. And that is how I am able to talk to you now. I am the Evangeline.
So, do you need a ship to function? Were you a person? I'm a little confused.
I was once long ago a person, a living person like you see before you. I called the Feywild my home. In an act of sacrifice, I imbued my spirit into the ship. I can only survive if the ship is fixed. But the ship was torn in two, and my spirit has been torn in two. What you see before you now is a projection, an image, my true self. I projected most of myself into the Feywild to save those I could when Arviatris brought the ship here. I could not save everyone, but I was able to save 8 of your crew members. I sent them into the Feywild. And my spirit resides there as well. I hope that you will come to the Feywild. Find me, so that I may be rejoined with my true form. You may find your missing crew members.
So, with the two halves of a very large boat in two vastly different places, how are we to fix it? Or is there another solution to fixing you?
Do not worry about the physical form of the ship. When you find me in the Feywild, I can be rejoined on the material plane. I will find a vessel. It doesn't have to be that exact form, that ship. Or perhaps you will find a suitable vessel, but I need some sort of vessel on the material plane, or I will fade into nothingness. You can keep your companions, your crew members, safe for quite some time. There will be many 10 days before a gate to the Feywild opens here on your plane. I can use my influence and try to make sure that the gate finds you wherever you are. But when the gate opens, will you answer the call? Will you help me and help your crew?
Of course.
That is why we are here.
Madame Thala just kind of looks up and smiles. See, I told you they would do it. She steps forward and says, Madame Thala steps forward and says, we lost quite a few. They were lost in the void while the ship was being carried away by the dragon. We lost Heward, and Eleanor, and Jack, Vane, Flint, and Barnard. And she kind of glances at you, Talmud. And we lost Matilda. She was the ship's surgeon that you had talked to a bit. But Arnold, Giselle, Jocelyn, Sybil, Robin, Max, and Carter, they were all saved by Evangeline. Where will you go now? Where will we go? Because wherever you go, I'm going. I hope that was clear. I hope that was understood.
Suppose we should return to Lonelywood.
And from there?
Need we go anywhere?
Wherever you choose to go, whether you stay in Lonelywood, or if you choose to travel to your home, wherever that may be. If it is on this plane, I will find you. And I will ensure that the gate finds you as well. Now that I know that Madame Thaler is safe, and the threat of Arviatris and Malthrond is no more, I must go back to the Feywild completely if I am to begin working my subtleties to be sure that you can find your way through. I hope to see you soon, perhaps sooner than even you realize, for she glances at you, Cantriel. Time in the Feywild is a silly thing. And you watch as Evangeline begins to disincorporate. And as she does so, you see that she starts to fade and the glow starts to not so much go away, but it begins to coalesce into 6 motes of light that each suddenly go, and there's an explosion of butterflies. And out of these butterflies, an individual butterfly seems to float and flutter to each one of you and land either on a shoulder, Rolo on the tip of your nose, on a finger, and you all level up to level 14. You have the Hoard of Arviatris before you, which includes the previous items as they were, I believe Ted has a note of that, but I also have a note of the Hoard items, excluding what you all kept for yourself. And Ted, you don't need to write this down because I have a doc I'll share with you.
Awesome.
In the Hoard, because I know you guys are going to go for it, you will find 3,400 copper pieces, 1,100 silver pieces, 280,000 gold pieces, 42,000 platinum pieces, a 1,000 gold piece diamond,
Nice.
a 500 gold piece sapphire, a 25 gold piece opal, a sketchbook from another world or material plane depicting unfamiliar creatures. But in this sketchbook, there is one drawing that stands out. It is a depiction of a Chardalon. A gold kneeling bench used for, it looks like it was probably used by Arviatris' followers to address her. Several embroidered pillows depicting dragon wormlings on them. A map of a dragon's lair with surrounding villages. It's hard to tell exactly where it is, but in the legend, next to an elaborate draconic compass rose, is the name Vantagariori Aladi. A stuffed snowy owlbear, soft and cuddly. A crude flute that, when you try to play it, makes a very pleasing sound. A star chart showing Bahamut and a one-headed Tiamat as constellations, with Elegy for the First World written between the stars, followed by the text of a poem. A battle standard bearing the symbol of a Chardalon, the skull of an angel named Theodore, inlaid with gold celestial writing. A treatise on alchemy etched onto copper cylinders, written by Copernicus. And you actually recognize the style of writing fig, that this is truly by Copernicus. A drum used for religious rites that has a very foreboding echo to its beat. A polished obsidian sculpture of a Chardalon worth 7,500 gold pieces. A decorative drinking stein featuring a satyr, a very familiar looking satyr actually, as the handle, depicting the many lewd acts of satyrs on the stein, worth 750 gold pieces. The shield is an animated shield. There is an 8th level spell scroll of power word stun, a potion of supreme healing, an elixir of health, a scroll of protection from beasts, a potion of invisibility, a sword of sharpness, a potion of vitality, a potion of invulnerability, and the 2 remaining items are a gold canary figurine and a ring of 3 wishes. I can read your lips, Dan. As I said, I have this. I will share it with all of you, Dawnbringers, because
what
I
manner
know
of sword is the sword of sharpness?
What?
What manner of sword is the sword of sharpness?
It is a longsword. So a couple of these items, you'll have time to figure out what they do. So I'll touch base when you figure out who wants what. But that's in addition to everything you already had. You know now, with the complete collection of Arviatris in your possession, that you have millions of gold, a couple million of gold worth of gems, art, magic items, all that stuff. And eventually you're able to make your way safely back to Lonelywood, where you rejoice and share in the celebrations as the Ewoks dance and Luke stares longingly at his spectral ancestors.
I have an image that I would love to share.
Absolutely.
Rolo takes the stuffed owlbear.
Does anyone mind if I take this? Professor!
And in a poof of snow, a giant owlbear comes charging out. And Rolo holds up the stuffed animal. And Professor Alfred looks at it for a second. And then he reaches down and he picks it up. And for their journey home, he just plods along with this little stuffed owlbear in his beak, and it is his precious, and he snuggles with it when they sleep, and he loves his little baby owlbear.
What about Talmud? I'm going to give each of you just a moment if you want to have sort of a final. We'll go through kind of in reverse order as I see you on my Zoom window. So Talmud, and then Thorgarn, you'll be next. And we'll finish with Cantriel.
So I think for Talmud, it's probably once we get back to Lonelywood. It's we see Yesha, who has kind of taken to nervously kind of adjusting this bracelet of Talmud's beard that he gave to her before leaving. Every once in a while, she kind of adjusts it and looks out the window in the direction where they headed off. And the worry, the concern is palpable. And at one of these points, she looks out and sees nothing, and then goes back to what she was doing. And then she can hear the barking of the sled dogs, and looks back up out the window and sees the Dawnbringers approaching with their sleds. And Talmud, dismounts off of the sled and goes straight to her and throws his arms around her in a warm embrace.
And yeah, She without hesitation returns just succumbs to the embrace. Thorgarn.
So once everyone has kind of made its way or made our way back to Lonely Wood, at some point in time, Thorgarn would take a minute, and he would kind of pull out all of the things that he does to turn Forge Fane into its own little mini shrine to moor it in, and he would go through his usual prayers and organizing his stuff. Then he would take a moment and he would begin offering prayers for the crew that were lost, and he just starts going through this list of names, and he goes through all of these new names almost in a litany. While these names don't come out as smooth and easy, they're remembered, and then he begins adding names, some that we've seen here, and then he adds more names from those in the procession that he's very familiar with, for when he was going to become a cleric, and the members of his previous adventuring party. He goes through them all a couple of times. He's done this numerous times before, but locking them all into his head, knowing full well that it's maybe not because of him, but it's definitely death that has happened around him that needs to be avenged, needs to be remembered.
Fig.
When everything stops and people are talking and going through the various treasures and collecting everything, and of course Fig is putting anything that people need to put into his hat for easiest carrying, but he kneels down at the snow where his simulacrum exploded into nothing, and he is holding the snow. He holds a little bit of the snow in his hands, and he lifts it up and he inspects it, and he sees there's just this ever so slight dusting of the ruby that he had used to create it. And so with that little bit of snow, he takes it, and as they start walking out of the cave, you can see he's already beginning to form a new head.
Very cool. Drown.
So just as far as the journey goes, or are we talking about once we get back to Lonely
anything
time? Drown is very simple, and pretty much every day is more or less the same as you've ever seen from him. He's fairly quiet unless someone comes up to him and asks questions, or something comes up that would prompt him to speak to anyone. He just takes most of the journey in silence, occasionally contemplating the axe that he sort of conjures out of whatever pocket dimension he sends it to when he's not using it. And yeah, once you get back to Lonelywood, just sort of spends his same routine. Mornings, he goes and breaks through the ice and spends some time swimming in the lake, and just sort of exists. Like, he helps out if anybody needs anything done, but otherwise he's just sort of there, kind of a fixture in the town.
Spending that much time when we don't know how long you're going to be there, but I just imagine that at some point, Drown, you actually encounter the monster, the sea monster of the lake.
Lake monster? Cool.
And I imagine Drown befriends it.
So first off, he can communicate with it. I mean, I assume it's another awakened.
It is. It's an awakened
right.
plesiosaur, I think.
Cool. So while they're both submerged, Drowned can even speak telepathically with it. So
Yeah, I just imagine it's like Free Willy. You just become friends with this lake monster, and
morning
maybe
swim with the lake monster.
maybe if somebody gets up in the morning early enough, certainly not Talmud, they would just see Drown, and then this like little Loch Ness blurry image swimming by.
See you tomorrow.
Finally, Cantriel.
So Cantriel would be quiet, very pensive and into her own thoughts, to the point where even the children running around, like, she'd pat them on their heads and smile softly, but she wouldn't really be as jovial and singing songs to them like she was before. And in the morning, she'd get up before anyone else and fill her quiver with arrows, and she'd actually go into the forest. And there is a tree that she has been visiting, and you can see arrow after arrow, whether it's broken shaft or buried deep, have started to collect on this tree. And it's one of the later days that they've been there, longer duration, and she pulls her bow and an arrow, and she starts to draw it back, aiming at the very same tree. And she just narrows her eyes, and there's this intensity on her face that develops. And again, she's quiet this whole time, and she starts to fire the arrow. And as soon as it leaves the bow, she pulls out another. And she repeats this as the action becomes faster and faster, to the point you almost start seeing sparks coming from her fingertips. And then suddenly, as she's firing off these arrows, quick as lightning, the bolts are turning into lightning as this tree gets hit by lightning bolt of an arrow, by lightning bolt of an arrow. And the tree itself starts crackling with the energy of the lightning and trailing up the branches, and it evaporates up into the treetops. And she finally stops when the trunk of the tree splits down the center, and you just see the charring of the lightning bolt patterns going up through the center of the tree. And she'll put the bow back on her shoulder. She'll pick up the quiver by its handle, and she'll just walk back through the forest back to Lonely Wood. And she'll just sit down by the shore's edge and follow the pattern of the sun.
And so the Dawnbringers pass their days following the defeat of Auriel the Frostmaiden.
So I guess I do have an addendum based on the quick
okay.
conversation we had in chat. So Drown continues to just sort of contemplate that frost giant axe that now has the sort of tentacle and undersea motif on it. And as days pass, he's kind of sullen and, I don't know, maybe sort of troubled. It's difficult to tell. His mood shifts are all very flat. But if no one has claimed it, at some point he is going to take the Sword of Sharpness from the dragon's hoard, and he'll spend one morning, instead of going down to swim in the lake, he'll spend a few hours before dawn sitting cross-legged with the axe laying across his lap and the sword lying next to him. And over the course of a few hours, he will just kind of meditate and channel his magic through his tentacle tattoos that begin to glow green, and they start to writhe up off of his skin, wrap around the axe, and you can see that there's this cold blue shadow sort of illuminated within the axe, and you can see these veins of dark blue stretching from the axe through his skin and coiling up toward his heart. And he starts sort of growling and gritting his teeth, and he bellows in rage, and the tentacles rip the veins to pieces, shattering them and breaking his connection to the axe. He pushes it aside, grabs the sword, and brings the blade down and slices through the blade of the axe, destroying it. And he just sort of looks at the frost giant axe, spits, and says, "My will is my own. It's all I have left," and casts the pieces into the lake. So for anyone who didn't know, that was a cursed berserker axe. Every time Drown took damage from a creature, he had to make a DC 15 will save or go completely berserk and attack every living thing. And that doesn't stop until there's no one he can see or hear within 60 feet of him.
Oh, wow.
And he almost lost it in Arviatris's lair.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And almost once fighting Variel too.
Yeah. So
Yeah. So that has been a crapshoot every time we have a fight.
Wow.
And it's only because of domain dice that you were able
It's
to.
only because of domain dice he held it together.
it's
Yeah.
Dawnbringers, the Avengers of
A lot of
D&D.
really good saves. A lot of really
Yeah.
good saves, but 2 of them were blown. So
Yeah. Now we
Bad.
see each of
Brown
the
doesn't like curses.
each of the Dawnbringers are periodically gathering together, but sort of taking care of things on their own as the days pass with no new threats, and true relaxation seems to come to them as they pass their days in Lonelywood. And we see the townsfolk going about their daily business. Every once in a while, we can see a slightly greenish beholder with 10 gazers floating around it, chasing after them as they are avoiding him. We see Rolo and Professor Alfred darting in and out of the snow. I imagine Professor Alfred chasing after one of the children who has absconded with the stuffed owlbear. And everybody going about their business, and as we see the sun rise and set again, as it continues to do each and every day because of the Dawnbringers. And that is where we are going to end Season 5, The Rime of the Frostmaiden. The Dawnbringers will be back next season for the wild beyond the witchlight. All right.
Yay!
All right. That was a
awesome,
heck of a
Jake. Thank
finale,
you.
y'all.
That was really cool.
Thank you for everybody who tuned in and hung out with us during this time. I'm going to take care of some housekeeping stuff with the players off air. But we will be returning with season 6 in the new year. Stay tuned for when that date is. It's going to be the I don't know when it falls. It's going to be the first or second full week of January. And is it the 5th, 6th, something like that?
6th.
And we'll get that all hashed out. It's going to be at the earliest. It'll be that. We are taking the month of December off. But next week we have one more week before the Thanksgiving holidays here in the US. So next week will be a Q&A retrospective with everybody except for V, who won't be able to make it with us, but we will miss you. Yeah, it's going to be a fun time to hang out, talk about, ask any questions, reminisce about things. Probably just do that for an hour or two, depending on the number of interaction from the audience. And then we'll be going on break. Be sure to tune in Saturday at 8 p.m. Eastern on twitch.tv/Talon, the letter N, Claw, for the last Jesse's Journey charity game taking place this year. I will be game mastering the Liberation of the Evangeline. The Evangeline is this is a different iteration of it, or maybe an earlier iteration, in the care of Flip Flop and Chop, the goblins. The Liberation of the Evangeline 4, a space pirate adventure, as they are going to space. And we are going to be joined by Dwight the Big Bearded Nerd, as well as D20 and Hawkmere, who I believe bid on seats to be a part of that. So tune in for that. We're raising money for Duchenne muscular dystrophy research. Monday night, Scribes and Scrolls, 8 p.m. Eastern every Monday, right here on twitch.tv/mini-terrain domain. And in the month of December, we will not have new stories, new sessions of that in the continuing storyline, but we are going to have interludes, which are short one-on-one sessions between me and each of the players, looking at some sort of backstory element of their characters. Those will be airing every Monday night. And I got a couple games here and there I'll tell you about on social media. So, thank you to all of you wonderful people who tuned in tonight. Special thank you to those who, in some way, shape, or form, provided domain dice for the players. And if you are one of those people that lurks silently in the background and does not participate in chat, thank you. We appreciate you just as much, and hope you enjoyed the show. And of course, as always, a tremendous, huge thank you to these amazing humans I get to play D&D with on Thursday nights for some of them for over 3 years. And I'm just so glad we get to keep going with this campaign. So thank you to V, Dan, M, Ted, Jeremy, and Katie, without whom it would be me talking to myself for 3 hours. We're going to go ahead and we are going to end this stream the same way we end every stream. And you can say it with me if you want.
Kiss my aft.